this short commercial break. And we're talking about the death penalty or capital punishment in the state of Tennessee. And of course, Dr. Woods, before we had our first commercial break, we were talking about your background and some additional information about capital punishment across the nation. Let's give you an opportunity to zero in on the state of Tennessee for the next, for the rest of this segment, to simply talk about the death penalty or capital punishment in the state of Tennessee from your perspective and the kind of information that you'd like to share with our audience this morning.
Well, Tennessee's had its modern death penalty statute since 1978, and there have been numerous death penalty trials in the state for first-degree homicide, resulting in slightly over 100 defendants in Tennessee having been convicted and given the death penalty and are now housed on Tennessee's death row. All of them male, 2 women, except for 2 women who are housed at the Tennessee Women's Prison in Nashville. All the other inmates on death row are housed at the River Bend Maximum Security Prison in Nashville. Over half of those defendants on death row are African American, so the numbers are still very disproportionate in terms of population ratio for the death penalty. The cases, the first cases to be tried on the Tennessee death penalty were in Memphis. A case involving a defendant named Richard Alston was the very first case, and the very second case was a case involving a defendant named William Grosclose and his co-defendant. Both of those cases were just retried in Memphis here last month, resulting in Mr. Grosclose receiving a life in prison sentence and Mr. Alston again receiving the death penalty. Tennessee cases follow the model that we were talking about in the first segment of our show today, where they received a bifurcated trial. The first stage of the trial, the jury decides guilt or innocence, and then at the second stage, the jury decides whether there are any aggravating factors. And in the 100-plus cases where there are inmates on death row in Tennessee, the jury obviously found that there were aggravating factors. Those men, primarily men, have appealed their cases at some length. The kind of issues that usually come up in death penalty appeals in Tennessee, sometimes they're guilt or innocence issues. Usually it's important procedural issues that come up, however, such as whether the inmate, the defendant, was given a competent attorney to represent him at trial. That's the most frequent issue and the most frequent grounds for reversal in Tennessee. Sometimes there are evidentiary questions relating to search and seizure or confessions, just like you would find in any other criminal justice case. But the biggest problem Tennessee has had, especially in the late 70s and 1980s when we were just getting started under our modern death penalty statute, we did not, our system really broke down very badly. The criminal justice system, the courts failed to appoint competent lawyers for the most part to represent these people who were charged with capital punishment homicide offenses. And as a result, I mean, you literally had cases tried where during that second stage of the punishment decision, where defendants and their lawyers literally put on no evidence. I mean, not even the mother would come in or the family and say, he's our son and we love him even if he's done something terrible. I mean, literally, you had cases tried where the lawyers didn't have enough experience or talent or sense to put up any kind of defense. Any defense at all. You had one case tried in the late 1970s where the defense lawyer literally said to the jury in closing argument, my client's an animal. He deserves whatever you do.
That was his lawyer.
That was his lawyer, not the prosecutor.
No, I mean his lawyer. I mean the defendant's lawyer.
The prosecutors have done a good job in Tennessee of preparing and learning about the death penalty through the Tennessee Attorney General's Conference, the District Attorney's Conference. They've basically organized pretty well. The Tennessee Attorney General now has a division of lawyers dedicated to doing nothing but handling the appeals in death penalty cases. So there have never been many problems that I'm aware of with the prosecution side of this social and criminal justice issue. We continue to have problems with the defense side. As you can well imagine, when you stop and think about it, very few lawyers want to be appointed to handle a death penalty case. They're no fun to try. They really are the kind of case you really lay awake at night worrying about, have I done the right thing? Have I done what I should have done? Everything I reasonably could have done? And judges, I think, have an immense burden when they try cases and hear death penalty cases on appeal, because again, you're never going to try or hear a more important case or a more serious case. You've got a victim and a victim's family who have been irreparably harmed. You've got a defendant who's going to lose his or her life if they're guilty and sentenced. So making sure that you have the right lawyers, both prosecutors and defense lawyers, is so terribly important in this process. What has then happened in Tennessee for these 100 convicted defendants given the death penalty over the last 20 years is each of them has filed numerous appeals. First, you get a hearing in the trial court if you're convicted. Then you get a hearing in the Tennessee Supreme Court. It's an automatic review in the past for a death penalty conviction. Nowadays, you also get a hearing in the Tennessee Court of Criminal Appeals. If you're the convicted defendant and you exhaust all those state court appeals without any success, then you can file what's called a habeas corpus in federal court. A lot of the habeas corpus on behalf of death row inmates have been filed with the Nashville Federal Court and assigned to now senior federal district judge John T. Nixon, and he's gotten a lot of adverse and negative publicity over the last, I guess, 10, 15 years because of that. And everybody should understand these cases don't come to Judge Nixon because he asked for them. They come because by geographical happenstance, he's here in Nashville and death row's here in Nashville. You know, if death row were in Memphis, all the federal cases would be getting heard in Memphis for the most part. Most of those cases came here, almost all of them for the federal courts. That's why you see Judge Nixon's name so much in these matters. Judge Nixon heard and decided, I think last time I counted, I think 6, maybe 5 death penalty cases off death row in Tennessee. He has reversed either the conviction or the sentence in all of them, and he's been upheld by the Federal Court of Appeals in Cincinnati in all of those rulings except one, which I'll come to in a moment. So I guess 5 out of 6 roughly, he's been upheld each time. And because the death penalty issue is so troublesome and so emotional with all of us, Judge Nixon and other judges who have gotten involved in these cases, I recall Justice Penny White, who was an issue in Justice Birch's re-election campaign here last year. You know, the public's very emotional about this issue, as they should be. You know, again, somebody dies, we've got a dead victim.
And let me, Attorney Woods, interrupt you here for this second commercial break, and we'll be back with you following this commercial break. The topic